What's up, y'all? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. We are once again not live tonight. It's my fault. We the new process that we're doing with Millions to get these live streams set up. I'm just not used to it yet. We're working on getting it set up for next week to be back live. But I think we're both pretty excited about the episode we got for you tonight. We are talking about the biggest questions for each SEC program headed into spring practice. And then, as always, at the end, we're going to get to some spring sports updates. But before we get to all that, how was your week and what are you drinking?
Just water again. For me, I mean, not too much. I mean, just busy, just doing stuff with the kids. The pool in our neighborhood opened yesterday, and I didn't get in the water, but the kids all wanted to get in, and they were in it for a little while today.
It
Um,
was cold. I guarantee you it was cold.
oh yeah, well, that was the reason why I was kind of apprehensive about going in the first place. It's only 65 today, like as a high.
And it rained yesterday and
Yeah,
Friday.
yeah. Well, they were good. I mean, they really didn't complain about it. Even the baby kind of got in for a little bit. She was good. So, I mean, I wouldn't have done it, but
No.
kids don't have feelings, I guess. But um, one crazy thing was okay, so if I showed you a picture of my daughter, she just turned 14 months. She has like this big bruise on her cheek, and then
Okay.
she scraped her chin today while we were at the pool. She like slipped down one of the stairs for something and skinned her cheek. So it looks like we're abusing the shit out of her, but I promise you, if you see us out, we're not. We're she's just very clumsy. And then Braylon gave her a hickey on her face, so like that's where the bruise came from. He was kissing her too hard. So we look like yeah, like DFAC's gonna be up our ass at some point.
Life of four kids is wild. I can't even imagine.
I it's a lot going on at all times. So yeah, if you guys could see me, in the next couple years, I'm guaranteed I'll be completely bald. So I'm getting there. How about you? How's it going?
Good. I'm not drinking either. Once again, caffeine-free Diet Coke. But we went to a family reunion for my dad's side of the family yesterday. Um, and being a German family, we made literally enough schnitzel to feed 200 people for 20 of us. So that was good.
Oh yeah,
Taught my Vietnam veteran uncle how to play cornhole.
you didn't know how to
Um,
play that? What?
no, he never played cornhole before yesterday.
Wow.
And then between I don't know, there's probably four of us drinking a bottle of whiskey I bought. There's almost none left by the end of the day. Um, so I shouldn't drink today, and then next weekend is St. Patrick's Day. So I
hmm
probably shouldn't drink all week and just drink water and take vitamins. Because I always say I'm not going to go hard on St. Patrick's Day, and I always do. So this year I'm just going to say I probably will. You know,
There you go.
self
Yeah,
awareness.
yeah. It's you can say, "Oh, I'll have a drink or two," and then once you see everybody else drinking and everything, it just peer pressure gets the best of you, and then
And we're going to the parade, so we're going to start at 7 a.m.
yeah, we're still unsure of our plans, but at the very least, my wife and I will make an appearance downtown at some point. I don't know if we're gonna bring the kids for a portion of it or not, but we've never had an issue bringing them with us there. So I mean, at least for the morning. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. This will actually be the first time I've seen the parade, and this will be our third year here for St. Patrick's Day. So,
Yeah, Uga's usually in it, so that's cool. I mean, just local celebrity.
yeah, you could say
So
one of the most important local celebrities.
I'd be the local celebrity.
Known around the world. How many other people from Savannah can say that?
None that I could think of.
There it is. He's the top dog, if you will.
It's a damn good dog.
So I think we're gonna go ahead and get into these questions. Like I said, we're super excited. I spent way too much time doing some research for these. So we're gonna start in reverse order of finish in the league, and then at the end we've got Texas and Oklahoma. Um, but off the top, we got Vandy. Can the team improve enough to stop losing their good players to the portal? And, I'm sure a lot of people think Vandy can't have that many good players. They had, I'll just tell you the list of players that left their program and went to other Power Five programs. All three of their quarterbacks on the roster. They were down to zero quarterbacks after the season.
Wow.
Their top three wide receivers left, all went to Power Five programs. Two tight ends, their top two tight ends, and their RB2 just on offense, and three of their top 10 tacklers all transferred to Power Five programs.
And that's not even to the draft or retiring or just
Right.
concentrating on academics. No, that's just to other other Power Five teams or just
Uh huh.
teams in general. That's wild.
Yeah. And I think the only way that they can stop that trend or at least lessen the blow is to be good enough to make the kids want to play for Vanderbilt. And it's a tall task. I know that. Um, but the flip side of that coin is it a coaching and culture problem? We don't, we've literally never found somebody that cares about Vandy to come talk to us, even though we've tried. So, like, we don't know how the culture is there. But when you have that many guys that were obviously getting playing time, obviously getting recognition because Will Shepard and London Humphreys were considered two of like the top 15 returning receivers in the SEC.
Mhm.
Like, do kids not want to play for Vandy and that coaching staff, or is it just they want to play for a school that cares about its football program?
That's a great question. I mean, if you think about like just everything with Vandy, there's not really a reason they should be as bad as they are as often as they are. You think about it, Nashville. If you haven't been, awesome town. I love going to Nashville.
It's
So much to do.
white trash Miami, some say.
Yeah, it's a redneck Riviera, right?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, that's a lot of fun. Obviously the school itself, academic wise, for those that care, obviously top notch private school. Just even like just in the state of Tennessee, like, would you rather live in Knoxville or live in Nashville? I think the answer is pretty obvious.
Yeah. And if they have the ability to have a top tier, not necessarily this year, baseball program,
Mm.
how? How are they this bad at other sports?
I don't know. I think it's some, and the bad part is Clark Lee is an alum of Vandy, so I mean it's kind of like the Bizarro or inverse like Kirby deal where I mean he brought the whole brought the culture to where he wanted it to be, and it's kind of a well-oiled machine and running itself. Vandy is still like it's sputtering and burning out and all that. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for them.
So we're going to go ahead and move on to Arkansas because I'm sure you guys didn't tune in to get a bunch of Vandy coverage today.
That's next week.
Um, with the portal turnover on offense, can Bobby Petrino and whatever quarterback they start help keep Sam Pittman his job?
Hmm.
So Arkansas lost KJ Jefferson, Rocket Sanders, and AJ Green to the portal this year. Those are, first off, it's their top three rushers. And not only is it their top three rushers, but those three individuals accounted for all but 843 yards of their offense in 2023.
I didn't realize this. Do you realize where KJ Jefferson went?
UCF.
Yeah, he went to UCF. I don't know if I just never heard that or just forgot about it, but that's intriguing.
It
But
is.
anyway,
It
yeah.
is. So Arkansas, they got Talon Green from the portal, quarterback from Boise State, and Jaquindon Jackson from Utah at running back to try to replace those guys.
Hmm.
The problem is Talon Green took over halfway through the year last year, quarterback for Boise State, after they had a coup, fired their head coach. They ended up winning their conference, phenomenal turnaround, but he only played half a year as a starter.
Hmm.
Jaquindon Jackson, even though the running team was the only reason Utah won last games last year, he didn't have a ton of yards. He was definitely productive. He definitely got in some plays, but he wasn't a featured back in that primary running offense, which makes you question Is it all potential, or do those guys have the ability to take a Bobby Petrino offense to winning 6, 7, 8 games this year, which is what's needed for Sam Pittman to keep his job and Bobby Petrino to not be one and done again?
Is Bobby Petrino the kiss of death? People are asking.
It's hard to argue at this point.
I mean, he did that with the Falcons, right?
Yep.
Granted, it was more Michael Vick than him, but still. Um, yeah,
A&M.
just A&M, Louisville twice because they fell off the face of the earth. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of Arkansas, to be honest. I mean, everybody loves Sam Pittman.
Correct.
I just don't. I have no idea what they're gonna do to even come close to getting that, bowl eligibility mark or anything like
And
that. I don't. Who
and
knows?
so this obviously isn't in the big question, but they did get a ton of guys out of the transfer portal to help with the defense because their defense last year was worse than their offense.
Hmm.
They got some offensive linemen. They're developing guys from the first recruiting class Pittman had to take over on the offensive line. They've got a bunch of guys in the defense. They can be better. They got starters from other SEC schools to come help with their defense.
Hmm.
They have the pieces to be better, but the question is, did IKEA send the uh, build manual with the set
At the
for
very
the
least,
defense?
they're probably missing some parts, but yeah.
Go pick up some screws and bolts from Ace.
KJ Jefferson's gonna. I mean, I love KJ at Arkansas too. So I don't. That's that. I can't imagine just anybody playing quarterback besides KJ Jefferson with eligibility remaining. That's again.
He
He
didn't
was
have
hurt a lot too.
confidence in the offensive line. That's really what it boils down to there.
Mhm.
Don't necessarily know why he picked UCF. They were bottom 10 of the country in sacks allowed last year, but that's an entirely different conversation.
It's all the fun stuff to do in Orlando. He just loves driving on I-4.
um, Mississippi State. This is a much more big picture question. What is this team going to look like, just in general? Um, so Mississippi State lost. I would argue their two most important pieces on offense: Will Rogers, leading passer, and Jaquavius Marks, leading rusher. But they have Jeff Levy, offensive-minded head coach, one of two head coaches in the, I guess three um, when you add Sark back into the mix. One of three head coaches in the SEC that's going to be calling plays. But I don't know anyone that has a clue what the offense is going to look like. You can base it off of what Jeff Levy's done in the past between Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and other stops he's had. But there is no incumbent starter at quarterback. The team's second leading rusher, Mike Wright, the backup quarterback.
Hmm. Hmm.
The other option at quarterback is Blake Shapen, played for Baylor. His first season, 2,970 yards passing, 18 touchdowns. His second season, which was 2023, 2,188 yards and 13 touchdowns. He's not mobile. Um, I'm not saying he can't be good, but we just don't have any idea. Like, we really don't. Baylor's been awful the last couple of years. Mississippi
Hmm.
State was bad last year. A lot of pieces left. What is this team going to look like?
And I mean, even if you go to like recruiting and all that, it's not like they've ever really been like a highly, a great, recruiting team. Because again, it's hard to get anybody to go to Stark Vegas, right? Um, and just going like even like going from the end of the Mike Leach era, uh going from an air raid to like a run first offense with or not well I shouldn't say run first but like a run heavy like not an air raid
They went
with
from Mike Leach to Iowa esque offense.
I mean pretty much the same results too.
Yeah, yeah.
And without the personnel to do it, so now they're changing it to whatever the hell uh Levy's gonna have there. I they might go winless. I don't know who they're playing in the non-con, but
Pretty
I
sure
don't know.
Arizona's coming to Starkville.
L.
That I could be wrong. I have not brushed up on my Mississippi State
Wait,
schedule this
they
year.
Wait, Arizona went there last year though, didn't they? Or was it
They
Arizona
have
State?
they.
I can't remember.
No, I think they've already finished their Arizona schedule because they did a home and
Okay.
away. So that, yeah, that was wrong. Um, South Carolina. Can the offensive line improve at all, let alone enough to have a consistent offense?
Oh, they go to Arizona State.
Okay, it's
So
possible. It's possible.
yeah,
Arizona State, not what you would call good last year. So it's possible.
yeah. Eastern Kentucky at Arizona State at home against Toledo. So and then
I'm not even
UMass.
sure how much we're going to learn in the first 4 games of the season about Mississippi State. Um,
Not
South
much.
Carolina's offensive line tied for 118th in the country in sacks allowed, for almost 300 negative yards, 110th in the country in third down conversion, 111th in fourth down conversion, 126th in rushing offense. The offensive line was the reason for almost all of that. Can they be good enough to give first time starter and big rec spec guy Lenora Sellers a shot to succeed in the offense? Because Dowell Loggins' offense last year, when the offensive line could protect, looked great. We saw it in the first half of the Georgia game.
Hmm.
We saw it against Florida when they put up 40 points. Like this offense, the design of the offense is good. OC, not the problem. Last year, quarterback, not the problem. Wide
Definitely not a
receivers,
problem.
not the problems. Tight end,
Yeah.
not the problem. Offensive line was 95% of their problem last season.
Hmm.
Can it be better? Not good. I don't even think they'd go to a bowl game with a mid offensive line. We just need them
Really?
to
I mean,
be
they're like 5 and
healthier.
7, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
better keeps Shane Beamer his job.
Hmm.
And if he's not on the hot seat, South Carolina fans got some explaining to do.
You saw the thing where he was talking about how when they lost James Coley to Georgia, they used that buyout to get a better wide receiver coach.
Yeah, tell me another wide receiver. Tell me that your wide receiver coach has had more guys drafted because he can't. It's not a thing.
Because he hired Mike Fury, right? Or Fury, right? He was a wide receiver for the Lions. I think he was on the team when they went 0 and 16. If not, it was right before when they went like 1 and 15. Like he was, I mean, he was a decent white receiver, not lads ability level, but I mean, I always said you hire the person that you don't want, hope someone else hires him, and then get the guy you want second. That's always been my philosophy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Makes
If
sense.
you hit a home run with your first swing, ask him to take it off the board so you can get a double with your second.
It makes it harder.
Yeah. Speaking of making things harder, let's go to Auburn. Talk about their quarterback. Specifically, can Peyton Thorne run the Hugh Freeze offense to a competent level? After what we saw last year, I think that is a beyond fair question. Peyton Thorne was 66 out of 106 guys that qualified for completion percentage last year, at least according to the NCAA's website, with 61.1%. Last year was also the lowest number of attempts in his career by 80. And he did not play for pass happy offenses before last year. He also had a 16 to 10 touchdown to INT ratio last year. I just, he's not very good. He's also not super mobile. What what can Hugh Freeze do now that 4 SEC head coaches play callers because Hugh Freeze took back that job?
Well,
Um, what does Hugh Freeze do to make this offense successful?
he's gonna have to hit the spring transfer portal hard, I would assume, because like you said, Peyton Thorne, he got beat out at Michigan State, and you saw how bad Michigan State was last year. They determined he wasn't good enough for that. Outside the one run against he had against Georgia last year that busted coverage and all that, not very good. Robbie Ashford's not there either. He transferred to South Carolina, I
South
believe, right?
Carolina, yeah.
Um, so he's gonna have to hope that something comes available in the spring, the spring portal on the 15th of April, because that's not gonna be good.
No,
We've already seen it. You can't say that he's uh, Thorne is what? He's gonna be a senior.
if not a
maybe.
fifth year.
Yeah. So I mean, it's tough to say that he's a finished product because obviously Janie Daniels used that extra year of COVID eligibility and won the Heisman, but that's not going to be Peyton Thorne. So yeah, my answer to that is he's got to see who gets beat out in the spring and then go after whoever that is
And with
somewhere.
all that
Somebody,
NIL money they threw around in the transfer portal period, how did they not throw 4 bags at a quarterback?
especially there were some pretty good quarterbacks out there in the initial one. I mean, you could have got the guy that went to what Cam Ward that went to Miami. I mean, Riley Leonard. I mean, all kinds of different guys you could have got that may have been a good fit for them. But I don't know. Maybe they're just waiting for maybe they have somebody they had their eye on in the spring portal that didn't announce when they thought they were going to announce. I don't know, but it's a bold move.
To say the least, bold move. Um, could be a trash move. Probably will be, if we're being honest.
Is Hugh Freeze trying to get fired? Get that that sweet Auburn buyout money.
Because we know they love spending bags on buyouts and not quarterbacks.
Hmm. They're still probably paying Gene Chizik for all we know.
Who knows? We were talking about trash just a second ago. So perfect time to talk about Florida. Who is going to lead this team on defense? A lot of people probably did not expect me to go defense on this question. Because we all know about Florida's offensive problems, but they have answers. May not be great answers. It may be one of those situations where choose the most correct answer, and they choose not the most correct, but a technically correct answer.
Mhm.
Graham Mertz, I think he was better than he gets credit for behind that line. Montrell Johnson is coming back. Eugene Wilson is a good to great option at wide receiver. He's the guy that had a few big catches against Georgia last season. Here's where we get to the problem. They lost 6 of their top 20 tacklers to the portal, 3 more to the draft, 9 guys total in their top 20 gone. Not to mention depth pieces behind them, because there were a lot of guys that hit the portal, and the leadership of guys like Scooby Williams, he went to the draft, Prince Uman
Umam,
Balin
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
went to Ole Miss, and a number of other guys. So, how is this defense going to find a locker or a leader in the locker room, because they had obvious cracks in the foundation over the last few years, and improve on a defense that was 75th in scoring, giving up 27.58 points per game?
I don't know. They got they recruited some guys. Because obviously Sunbelt Billy, one of the things that he prided himself on and that they kind of bragged about was his recruiting problem is kind of like the anti Dan Mullen with that. But I better hope that you got some guys in there, that first or second year or first or second recruiting class because you're gonna need it with all the veterans that have left
Yes.
that team. Now to their defense, at least it's tough for a freshman to lead anything. So I mean, it's not really fair for that to happen. But
They did get a lot of guys in through the transfer portal that are upperclassmen. Um,
did they end up getting the kid from the Ivy League that we had talked about before? I can't remember where if anywhere that he went. I can't remember the kid's name at this point.
um, I just got the list pulled up here. Yeah, they got Joey Slackman, a guy that we
There we
wanted.
go. Mhm.
As far as defense goes, they got a corner from Oregon, safety from Tulane, um, linebacker from South Carolina, who was a 4 star, Asa Turner from Washington, and Jameer Grimsley from Alabama. So their lowest rated transfer on defense, um, 85. He's rated at 85.
That's good. I mean, that's definitely something that they could use.
But how many
Uh,
of those guys are going to be able to step in and lead?
that's gonna be tough. I mean,
Because
and then you
at
go
this
ahead.
point, I assume one of their super seniors is as old as their defensive coordinator, Mr. Truffle
Right.
Shuffle, all grown up.
Yeah. I mean, you look at their schedule. I mean, we kind of talked about it a little bit before, and other outlets have as well. But like 11 of their 12 games were against like Power Five competition. Start off against Miami. Sanford's obviously not FBS, but I mean it's a freaking gauntlet. Like they might be a
Arguably
better
the
team
hardest schedule in college football history.
Yeah, your bookend with Miami and Florida State. You have Ole Miss, LSU. Well, so just after the bye, just if you want to look at it that way. So you have Georgia that Halloween weekend. You go to Texas, then come back home in the swamp against LSU, then Ole Miss, then at Florida State the end of the season. Good luck with that.
Four teams that are probably starting the season in the top 10.
One, two. You could argue that one, two, three, four, five, five of them are probably going to make the playoff,
Yeah,
or could make the playoff at least. So,
I think it's a very easy argument that this is the hardest schedule in the history of modern college football.
mhm.
I'm sure Michigan's hardware stores and YMCA's is definitely way up there. Um, but I think Florida's got them beat.
Yeah, you don't know how many big Eastern European like Polacks were on those hardware store teams. Like you have no idea. That's some old world strength.
A guy that was smoking cigarettes while he was throwing the football.
Smoking cigarettes since he was in the cradle. Oh man.
Uh, all
But
right.
they might be better than they were this year, but you're not gonna be able to tell because their record's gonna be worse.
Yeah, you're actually going to have to watch Florida games this year to know if they were good. Because they could
Yeah.
even get blown out by a Texas and Ole Miss and LSU and Georgia. Like they could lose 56 to 28 and have played the best game that they could.
Hmm.
Like they could play a mistake-free game and lose by 28. That's
Yeah,
really not out of the question.
absolutely.
Kentucky. Can the Wildcats get back to any level of passing offense with all the turnover on that side of the ball? So last season, Devin Leary was underwhelming to say the least. He threw for the least amount of passing yards he had throughout an entire football or entire college football season in his career. And that's with the most talented skill position players he's ever had. Ray Davis, those young wide receivers, good tight ends. They lost Liam Cohen again and hired Bush Hardman. The upside of Bush at OC is that he called Boise State's offense during their midseason turnaround last year. Two Boise State references in the Georgia podcast. Who'd have thought?
Right.
He's also been the quarterback coach for the Falcons back when they actually had a good quarterback. So he knows how to work with guys at the pro level. The biggest question within the question here is if the wide receivers can get any sort of consistent. They have obviously got Brock Vandegrift throwing to him. Great, great arm, great talent. No bad things to say about Brock Vandegrift.
Nope.
But the Wildcats hired former Houston wide receiver coach Dakiel Shorts. If you saw his name spelled out, you would understand why I pronounced that way.
Yeah.
Um, so Houston was 52nd in the country in passing offense last season to compare to Kentucky's 83rd. So
Mm.
can they have a passing offense this year?
I think they can. I think just like you, I feel really good about Brock being the quarterback there for at least this year, going into next probably 2 years at least, right? Um, Unless he just totally goes off the chain this year, which he might. He has some time to get into it because they start off against Southern Miss, and then they do play a rivalry game against South Carolina. So I mean, they got. But again, we talked about South Carolina kind of be all. They'll probably be all over the place, be fighting for ball eligibility, maybe falling short. But they got some time to figure it out before they play Georgia September 14th. So they have a tough schedule as well, I guess. I kind of got ahead of myself, but um, I think it'll be all right. I think Brock's definitely an upgrade over Devin Leary, so I
And
feel
I
good
will
about.
say one thing that I think is really going to help them get in their passing offense better is the threat of Brock's legs. Devin
Yeah.
Leary last year, not really mobile. He's had a ton of injuries throughout his career, but when you have to account for a quarterback that can run and run people over the way that Brock can, you've got to dedicate more guys to the line of scrimmage and the box, which leaves your wide receivers more open. And with those guys and their ability to run routes, it should open up.
Mhm.
And I say should because last year they would be wide open. The ball hit them in both of the hands and they drop it.
Yeah,
So if they can get consistent and the OC calls good plays, Kentucky will be better.
should
Texas
be.
A&M.
Yeah.
Texas A&M. Can the offensive line keep Connor Wigman upright and healthy long enough for the Colin Klein offense to work? Texas A&M went through every option they had at quarterback last year, going from Connor Wigman to Max Johnson and eventually to Jalen Henderson and Marcel Reed. They had to start 4 quarterbacks last year due to injuries, all because their O line's inability to keep the quarterback upright. They tied for 86 with 30 sacks on the season, averaging over 2 sacks per game. And they've got to get better for Colin Klein's offense to work. This is a guy that managed to make Kansas State's offense dangerous. They only allowed 1.3 sacks per game last year, and Texas A&M got 3 good offensive line options out of the portal. I think we've just got to see how this one plays out. I don't think we're going to see a ton in the spring game, but with this offense and Mike Elko having his ability to get a defense together, Texas A&M could go 10-2. If their
Mhm.
offensive line is good, they have the ability to go 10-2. Probably will fall short.
Yeah, just again looking at their schedule, they start the year at home against Notre Dame, which Notre Dame, I mean, they'll for everything that Notre Dame is, they've shown up at least like been competitive in most of the games they played against SEC teams that haven't
Mike
been playoff.
Elko's former quarterback is going to be starting for Notre Dame in that one.
So
Riley
they got
Leonard.
yeah, so they best possible scenario for Texas A&M going into that Notre Dame game is they at least have an idea of what their quarterback's going to do, even though it's his first time starting for them. Outside of that, I mean, Texas A&M has a very manageable schedule. They don't play Alabama, they don't play Georgia, notably. Um, they do play, see, like SEC games at Florida, um, at Jerry World against Arkansas, Kyle Field at home against Missouri, go to Mississippi State. They have a home game against LSU, go to South Carolina, to Auburn, and then finish at home against Texas. So 10-2 is not crazy by any means. Like they have a very favorable schedule and just the way it all sets up. So
But I think we'll know in the first half of the game against Notre Dame whether the offensive line is going to be able to keep the quarterback healthy because Notre Dame, especially under Marcus Freeman, has a great defensive line. And
mm,
we saw that multiple times last year. The Duke game, the
yeah.
USC game, they were terrorizing quarterbacks.
Yeah, their defense was not Notre Dame's defense was not the problem. It was their offense.
Yeah.
And Connor Wigman, I mean, after he got hurt and he was out for the year, like you definitely could tell. I mean, he was barely holding that team together, being competitive. And then once he went out, I mean, it was over for them. So hopefully he's healthy because he was fun to watch, or as fun as you can be in a Jimbo offense.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So, Tennessee. And there were a few different ways that I could have gone with this one. But I did, can the defense play half as good as they did last year with losing so much?
Mhm.
We could have gone with the do they have the wide receivers to have the same offense they did in 2022? We could have gone with losing a few pieces on the offensive line. Are they going to be good? We've already had a lot of offensive line talk today. So we're going to go defense. Last season, Tennessee was strangely better at defense than they were on offense. A lot of that was the limitation of Joe Milton running the offense. No shade at Joe Milton. We obviously know he can throw a football from where he's at and hit me in the head through my roof. No question.
Man can throw an
But,
Oregon 104 yards. Never forget.
yeah. Um, they're losing 4 of their top 11 tacklers from the 2023 season to the portal, 2 more of their top 20 to the draft. And on top of the normal trend of their defense spending most of the time on the field and giving up a ton of yards with the lack of depth, I have faith in the Josh Heupel offense. He's had one offense that wasn't top 8 in his head coaching career, so last season. However, their defense has always been a problem outside of last year, and with losing so many pieces, can they be half as good as they were last year?
That's a huge ask. I'm just going to let me say no.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know what their schedule looks like, but with the
Here, I got.
defense they have and a brand new starting quarterback, it's going to be tough to have any run close to what they did in 2022.
All right, you want me to go through it real quick?
Yeah, let's go.
I got it pulled up. All right, so uh, start off against UT Chattanooga, whatever. Then they go to Charlotte, play neutral field game against NC State, which NC State was pretty good last year, all things considered.
They got better towards the end of the year.
Yeah, they finished. They definitely finished strong. And they have Kent State come in, and then they go to Oklahoma, go to Norman, September 21st. You have a bye week, and then you go to Arkansas, and then October 12th they're at home against Florida, and then third Saturday in October they play in Neyland against Bama. Got a bye week, and then they go back home, play Kentucky, homecoming at home against Mississippi State. They go to Sanford Stadium November 16th. They have a game against UTEP in Knoxville, and then they finish in Nashville against Vandy. So
So 9-3 is a fair expectation.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Seven
Um,
7-5 should be the floor, and that would be disappointing if they went 7-5 with this schedule, especially the way that it sets up.
it would be disappointing for Tennessee fans, just to clarify.
Yeah. Oh no, for us it would be fucking awesome. I'm here for it.
Mizzou, another one that I could have gone a couple of ways with. Coming off of talking about Tennessee's defense, I avoided going with what does the defense look like now that Blake Baker's down at LSU. So we're going, how does the run game play without Cody Schrader? Last year, Mizzou had 2,300 rushing yards. Cody Schrader accounted for all but 673 of those. The guys that are going to try to replace that production are Nate Noel from App State and Marcus Carroll from the fake GSU, um, headquartered in Atlanta, if you don't understand that reference.
Mm.
Carroll had 1,350 rushing yards last season. Noel had 834. Both guys are good. Noel's a better receiving threat than Marcus Carroll is. The question is, how good can they be when you compare them to Cody Schrader last year and his incredible instinctive running style?
So when I was watching Georgia State play the real GSU last year, I remember I think I said it in the group text, but I was raving about Marcus Carroll, like just watching him that one time. Like he was great. So I
Yeah.
actually feel pretty good about what how they addressed the Cody Schrader leaving situation because Marcus Carroll, again, at being at Georgia State, not gonna get the eyeballs that he's obviously gonna get in the SEC with the drink, kind of calling the same offense or them calling the same offense that had so much success last year for Cody. So I think they're gonna be fine. Like really, really. Marcus Carroll not going to be in the preseason, but like the after the season, he may be an all SEC back.
I can agree with that 100%. But he doesn't have very good numbers when he's played SEC competition. Part of that is the
Yeah,
surroundings. Obviously, you're running
yeah.
behind a Sun Belt offensive line versus a Missouri offensive line.
Mhm.
But Cody Schrader didn't run well last year because of the offensive line or the plays that were called. He had a spidey sense of where he knew the gap he was supposed to run through had somebody coming downhill. And
Yeah.
he would just cut and gone.
Mhm.
The instincts are what made Cody Schrader great. The offense had a good bit to do with it, but I would say 40% of his rushing yards last year were all on instinct. And
That's fair. Yeah.
how does that stack up with Marcus Carroll and Nate Noel? Neither of them have played in the SEC before.
Well, counterpoint to that, Cody Schrader, he played. Where did he play before he went to?
He was D2 before.
Yeah, so I mean, he was used to not having SEC caliber talent as well, and then he was able to seize that opportunity. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, Cody Schrader should never been a D2 running back.
No, and I it was honestly hard to come up with a question for Mizzou because I think with all the pieces of returning, they're one of the more complete teams in the SEC. One of the ones that we have the least questions about. Is their ceiling lower than other teams? I think probably. But
Mhm.
do they have very many holes? No. So it was this or going with Blake Baker, but they hired a great defense coordinator to take his spot. So Mizzou to me had probably the least amount of questions outside of probably Georgia.
Could you imagine saying that like
When we were
12 months
asking
ago?
Adam Spencer if
Yeah,
Drink was going to get fired after the Georgia game,
right. Yeah.
no, absolutely not.
No. And then you have them there beating skeleton Ohio State at should say, but beat them in the Cotton Bowl, won a New Year's Six game when I thought they weren't even going to make a bowl game last year. So
Yeah, yeah. No, that
crazy.
wild turnaround. All props in the world to Drink, legitimately.
Yeah.
Like I understand the AD situation, not great during the first 3 years of his coaching career at Mizzou.
Mhm.
But compared to the other sports on campus, baseball's not good, basketball's not good, and he managed to turn the football program from a team that didn't make a bowl game into a team that beat Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl.
Mhm. That's crazy too, because Missouri baseball is never usually good, but like their basketball team is usually pretty good. At least they were in the Big 12. So I
Yeah,
mean, it's a while ago now, but yeah.
we're gonna move on to LSU here, the team that took Blake Baker from Mizzou. But we're not going defense. Can the new look offense live up to the new LSU standard? Two of the last 4 seasons, LSU had some of the best offenses in modern college football history. We all know about the 2019 offense. Most of those guys are NFL starters right now. But the 2023 offense, I don't think is the national love it deserves. I've said many times on the show if they had a mid defense, they win the national championship last year.
Hmm.
So LSU in 2023, first in total offense, 543.5 yards per game, 12 yards per better than second place. First in scoring offense, 45.5 points per game, 1.2 points better than second. Third in passing offense, 10th in rushing offense. They've replaced both their offensive and defensive coordinators. Thank God for the defense. Just being honest, I truly don't understand how LSU fans didn't burn Matt House's house down after they had a quarterback that won the Heisman, those two receivers, and a good running back, and didn't even sniff the playoff. Don't understand it.
Hmm.
But they've got a new quarterback in Garrett Nussmeyer, Bus Nuss as we call him, who's been up and down through his playing time. Obviously, he had a great SEC championship game in 2022. But the spots he played in 2023, not great until really the second half of the bowl game. Um, New stable of running backs. We really don't even know who's starting at running back. I think they got 4 guys out of the portal to play that position. And the only proven wide receiver is Kyron Lacey. So they have a lot of questions on that side of the ball, but they finally don't have him in offensive line, which is, I'm sure LSU
Yeah.
fans appreciate. But how do these pieces fit in with the LSU offense, and can they live up to the standard that they've made for themselves?
It'll be really tough for Garrett Nussmeier to live up to Jaden Daniels and going back to Joe Burrow as well, 5 years ago. But he does have some time to get situated. Starts off the year in Vegas against USC, which their defense can't stop a nosebleed. So he very well may look like,
Go ahead and bet the over.
yeah, he might look like Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow's like illegitimate son out there playing like a
Yeah.
mixture of. He very well could because like I said, USC can't stop a nosebleed. Nickel State at home at South Carolina again, defense isn't good, and then they play UCLA in South Alabama before they have a bye before they play Ole Miss. So like they have time. They have about five, really realistically like 4 or 5 weeks to get their shit together before they really get tested.
So is LSU threatening to move to the Big Ten?
And
playing
that's what it looks
USC
like.
and UCLA.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Both, both not in California. So shout out to them for making that happen to go all the way out there. So good for them. But LSU going to Vegas for that Sunday night, the Sunday game. I don't know why LSU gets the lone Sunday night game Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day
I'm
weekend.
I'm not mad about it.
That's fun. I'm jealous of that. That's the one thing that I'm jealous of LSU is that. Damn.
Yeah, give me Georgia versus USC in Vegas Labor Day weekend.
Vegas, we always joke about like, Georgia fans and LSU fans being able to drink, but like Vegas they may run out of alcohol that weekend.
Yeah, that would be a lot of
Yeah.
fun. Talking about fun, Ole Miss. Do all the transfer portal players help bring the defense to a playoff contention level? And I think that's the point the Ole Miss program is at now. Like with
Mhm.
season they had last year, season before, 10 wins, 11 wins, you've got to have a playoff conversation with Ole Miss. So we all know that Ole Miss had a team to beat damn near everyone in the country last year. Honestly, they probably beat all but the top six teams. You could
Yeah.
probably line Ole Miss up against every other team in the country minus the top six, and they would probably win that game.
Mhm.
But the defense held them back from beating Alabama and Georgia. It's well
Yeah.
documented. Georgia beat the shit out of them. Alabama, I think Lane quit at halftime, just personal belief there, but still lost to that or Alabama. Um, the good news for Ole Miss, they've got the portal king. They've got Lane Kiffin.
Yep.
He once again hit the portal hard. They lost four defensive guys and replaced them with eight. All but one of the guys that are coming in to Oxford are Power 5 transfers, and the one guy that isn't a Power 5 transfer played in the 26th ranked scoring offense, 28th ranked scoring defense, 28th ranked, 26th ranked scoring defense, and 28th ranked passing defense as a corner. To put that in perspective, Ole Miss finished 75th in passing defense and 34th in scoring defense. So he has experience playing at a high level. I don't think any of us are questioning the offense with the guys that are coming back. Jaden or Jackson Dart, Caden Prescorn, Trey Harris, Jordan Watkins, and then you've got Juice Wells and Logan Diggs coming in on that side of the ball as well.
And you still got Ulysses Bentley too, right?
Yes,
Jesus.
yeah. The only question I think anybody's asking about the Landshark Bear Rebels is the same as it always has been. It's the defense, and they brought in former rival head coach Zach Arnett to be a defensive analyst. Can they finally answer the defensive question?
I think so. And again, I keep going back to the schedule part of it, but if you look at Ole Miss's schedule, there is no reason why they shouldn't win. At a minimum, they should win 10 games. Honestly, they should be right up there with Texas and Georgia in terms of like teams with the highest win, over under in Vegas. Because I mean, honestly, they don't play. They play the first real like test they have is at LSU, and then they go to Oklahoma, then they have Georgia like a little bit after that. So I mean, this should be a 10-11 win team easily. So I think they'll be all right.
According to FanDuel, their current over under is 9.5.
Is Georgia and Texas, I think, are 10.5.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're both at
it's not far
10.5.
off. Yeah. So I would bet the over on that right this second. Right now, lock it in.
So
Ole Miss is
split
going
your
to win
next
10
mortgage
games.
payment, go
Yeah.
over on LSU USC and over on
Ooh.
Ole Miss season win total, and just split your mortgage payment. We're talking to the listeners, not us. Not us.
No, because of course it's not legal here yet. They're working on it.
Yeah. Just quick caveat. Georgia, the ballot for sports gambling is put up to a popular vote in the November election.
Oh, did they finally say that?
Yes. I,
Okay.
we don't talk politics on this show. But if you get out and only vote on one thing in Georgia, you can leave everything else blank. I don't really care. Vote for sports gambling to be legalized.
Mhm.
You should get out and vote either way. Tuesday is the primary. Research your candidates. Just a little PSA here. Don't go in there and vote party line. Research people. But in November, vote yes for sports gambling.
Please, because it has to be a constitutional amendment, right? Isn't that what the whole deal
I
is?
I believe so. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, we won't get into the politics of that, but we better not be the last state that is holding off on that because marijuana is never going to get passed here. I think sports gambling has a better chance of passing than recreational marijuana, but we'll see.
Hey, look, South Carolina might have higher property taxes, but it's only a few miles away. If they legalize it before Georgia does,
Mm. Hell yeah.
yeah, I might have to. Um, Speaking about good things Georgia does, biggest question for Georgia: can the O line replacements protect as well as Amarius Mims and Cedric Van Pran? One of the more
Mhm.
impressive things about Georgia's 2023 team was the offensive line, specifically how well they did with a new left tackle and rotating guys with injury almost every game. Um, the best center in college football is headed to the NFL along with, oh, good lord. My phone, when I was typing this, jacked all sorts of up. All right. Best center in college football is headed on to the NFL along with first round right tackle Amarius Mims. So, how does this group respond? When Cedric Van Pran was asked about the next man up, he said, I think Jared's better than me. That's my opinion. I don't
Wow.
want to put too much expectation on him. Athletically, Jared is better than me. I'll be really excited to see what he can do. Direct quote from Cedric Van Pran at the combine, or it was Orange Bowl, my bad. Um, but when you have the best center in the country saying that about the guy behind him, that I think that should make all Georgia fans excited. Jared Wilson split time at guard and center in mop up and injury time last year, so he has a lot of experience. The question for me more so is right tackle because last year when Mims went down, they didn't have a solid answer. More times than not, they moved Xavier Truss over to that spot from left guard. I do think Xavier Truss is better at right tackle than left guard, but I'm not sure if he's the answer for the whole season when you have teams on your schedule with great pass rushers. Clemson, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Texas. I mean, that's a third of the schedule that has historically good pass rushers. The 2023 recruiting class had a lot of guys that could step up into that role. Monroe Freeling, four-star number six tackle in the country, freak athlete, listed on Georgia's roster as 6'7", 310. Bo Hewley was four-star number 10 tackle in the country, and he was called a bully in the trenches and having a 7-foot wingspan when he was in high school.
Jeez.
And currently listed at 6'7", 280. That size and weight could lend him to be more mobile and pick up those outside pressures better. And then last guy, Jamal Merriweather, barely missed out on being a four-star. He was rated 89.9, which he was point 0.1 for me and a four-star player, but that's a side point. Number 31 tackle in the country, an extremely athletic and explosive upper half. He was 10th in the state of Georgia in high school with discus. All right, guys, if I said this next part for a second time, it's because we had some software issues. But an extremely athletic and, explosive top half, placing 10th in the country in discus, 10th in the state of Georgia in discus in high school. I really think any of these guys could fit that right tackle spot. The question is, who wins that job? Who's able to compete at the Georgia level last year when they were seventh in the country in sacks allowed, averaging less than one a game?
I don't know.
Yeah, I. If there's one thing that you intently watch for Georgia's spring game, watch the right tackle, watch the defensive line. I think defensive line
Yeah.
is okay. That's why that wasn't the question. With all the young guys got a lot of playing time last year, they're going to be able to step up and fill some of those roles. But the right tackle is one of, I think, the spot to watch for this season, especially spring game.
And they loved running it to the right side last year,
Hmm.
so that's gonna be a big change. Well, presumably a big change for them, but we'll see.
Alabama. Can the defense slow teams down enough to play late into the postseason? With Nick Saban leaving, the defense is bound to take a step back. It may not be a huge step, but when you lose the best head coach of all time, he was defensive minded, put some of the best defensive coordinators out into the world, put some of the best head coaches out into the world, you are bound to take a step back. They lost Caleb Downs to Ohio State, who already self reported a violation of tampering with him. Shocker.
Right?
Um, they also lost 10 other guys to the portal on the defensive side of the ball. Along with those losses, they brought in Kalen DeBoer. We talked with Cody Goodwin about it last week. DeBoer's a hell of a coach, but he hasn't really ever been a head coach with a great defense. He did bring in some great coaches for that side of the ball. He got South Alabama's head coach to be the defensive coordinator. But we're just really going to have to see what that defense looks like when it comes to them playing Georgia, Tennessee, Mizzou, LSU, and Oklahoma.
And Wisconsin too. They have to go to Camp Randall, so they have
Don't
talk about a
sleep
tough
on the
schedule.
Dairy Raid.
Never, especially the second year. Shoot.
Yeah, I think offense is going to be interesting. Kalen DeBoer is going to figure it out. Offense,
Yeah,
that's not a question with Alabama. The question is, what the hell does the defense look like?
he's definitely got his work cut out for him there. And again, he does have the spring portal to address any weaknesses that he sees in the during the spring practice. So we'll see. I mean, a lot when we talked with Cody before, like I think he felt like they would attack the spring portal again as well. So, and I think I don't know when their A-Day game is, their spring game is, but um
I believe it's the week before Georgia's because they started spring practice a week before.
yeah. So okay, so they'll definitely have time to evaluate everything and then hit it, right away when the portal opens. I think
Oh, it's the same day as Georgia's. I don't know
hmm,
how they're doing that.
they must be taking some more time off during the
Oh,
week or
yeah,
something. Maybe their spring break's different. I don't know.
probably. Um, Last two teams, obviously the new guys. Oklahoma. Does Oklahoma's defense improve to any level of acceptable for an upper level SEC team? So last year, Oklahoma finished 77th in the country in total defense under a head coach that's known for defense.
Skeletor.
Um, in his two complete recruiting cycles, he's had in 2022 22 total commits. 12 of them were on the defensive side of the ball. Most of those 4 stars. Last year, 25 commits and 16 were defensive, and most of those were 4 stars as well. Somehow they have a defense that looks way too similar to what Lincoln Riley was putting on the field to be even considered mid in the SEC for the defense. Brent Venables is the same coach that was responsible for Clemson having a dominant defense that was centered around the defensive line, but Oklahoma finished 42nd in rushing defense, allowing 138.2 yards per game, and tied for 86th in sacks. The defensive line should have been better under Brent Venables, and they've lost 5 guys to the portal. So, how is this defense going to look in the SEC?
Again, they got their work cut out for them. Again, I keep going to the schedule part, but they got hosed in terms of like the schedule for the new guys between them and Texas. They got a much more difficult schedule than Texas did. Um, and it's crazy, like you mentioned, like Brent Venables, his whole, what he got brought in to do was fix the defense. Try to keep up with what Lincoln Riley was doing on offense, which is tough to do. But they managed to do pretty well. Their offense wasn't really that far off from what they had under Lincoln Riley with all those Heisman winners and finalists that they had at quarterback there. But the defense has not nearly been what I'm sure Oklahoma fans expected it to be with arguably the best defensive coordinator in the game when he got brought in. So it's tough to say. He's going to have to improve that significantly for them to have a chance in their first year in the SEC. So I don't know.
Yeah, and our friend Connor O'Gara talked to a sideline analyst for Oklahoma last week for his podcast, and he said that the word from the athletic department is unless Oklahoma goes 3-9 this year, Brent Venables is coming back for another year. So it's not necessarily a job concern, but he would give himself a lot more leeway if they even had a top 50 defense.
Mhm. Well, and he did and it's probably not fair to put him on the hot seat either. I mean, I guess if he went 3-9, he would be, but he had so much roster turnover when he took over. Because again, like all these guys, Caleb Williams, Spencer Rattler left, or enter the portal when he got hired, or when Lincoln Riley left. It's like a bunch of pieces left with Lincoln Riley. So he did a decent job keeping that together. I think they were a 6-win team his first year, and then they won another game or two last year, but. Um, I think they're still on the up and up, so I think they'll be all right.
Last team we're talking about, Texas. Who's taking over for Xavier Worthy and AD Mitchell? Um, we saw what both. I always fuck up his name. Adonai. That's why I keep going with AD.
Yeah,
My
I think it's a
bad.
down eye. Yeah, I think,
M-
but yeah, go ahead.
My bad. We both saw what Mitchell and Xavier Worthy did at the combine, putting up those insane numbers and both potentially moving up multiple rounds in the draft. Behind those guys, who do they have? Sark's taken a few guys from Bama over the last couple of years, most recently Isaiah Bond, but they don't have any proven guys in the wide receiver room outside of him. Somehow they've got to replace their top four pass catchers from 2023, losing a total of 3,046 receiving yards. How the hell do they do that?
Isaiah Bond might be able to do 1,000 of that, but you still got another over 2,000 yards to make up for.
And they've
I
got
would,
some 4 and 5 star receivers they've
yeah,
recruited over the last couple of years, but those guys haven't seen the field.
yeah. Well, and that was like the problem with Alabama last year. It's like, yeah, you had all these 4 and 5 star receivers, but they were inexperienced, and obviously you saw that with the issues that they had last year. So it will be interesting to see for sure. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that'll be something real interesting to watch. I didn't realize how bad the experience depth was for Texas this year. Maybe it puts a little bit damper on their outlook for possibly making the playoff. I highly doubt it. They're probably still going to make it in, but how high are they going to be? How many games are they potentially going to lose?
Mhm. Hopefully, at least one.
At least one.
At least one.
Um, so thank you guys for sticking with us through that. We both had a lot of fun doing the research and talking about it. So if you liked it, let us know. But we are going to move on to a little bit of a baseball and softball update real quick. So this afternoon, Georgia won their 8th game in a row and have hit 6 grand slams in 6 games. 6 in a season is impressive, but 6 in 6 games makes you start asking a lot of questions about the world of college baseball, and
Yeah.
not in a bad way for Georgia. Diamond Dogs are now 16-1 on the season. Former walk-on and redshirt Charlie Condon is having an absolutely insane season at the plate. Currently sixth in the country in batting average with a 5.31. Georgia has moved up to 64th in the country in ERA. We talked about it earlier with Chris Phillips a few weeks ago. They were in the 120s in that stat last season.
Mhm.
Um, the boys play Iowa on Tuesday before starting a series in Lexington against the Wildcats with a 12-3 record this weekend. Walks are still a little bit of an issue, but this team is fun to watch and absolutely deserves to be ranked. Hell, the 25th ranked team, 5 losses. Vandy is still in the top 10 with 3 losses. College
Mhm.
baseball needs to quit with this blue blood bullshit and realize that there's a lot of damn good teams outside of the top 25 that aren't your normal top 25 teams.
Rank them, you cowards. Rank them.
Rank the damn dogs. Softball. The Lady Diamond Dogs are 18-3. Only 3 games they've lost this year are to all ranked teams. Um, and they are on a 3 game winning streak after losing last week against Stanford. I believe it's 4 now because they were playing the second game of a doubleheader while I was writing this. But the ladies do play Tech this week before a Bama series this weekend, and Bama's pretty good at softball, so that'll be fun to watch.
Mhm.
We talk about it all the time. Watch baseball and softball. They're on ESPN Plus. Georgia has at least 1 game against Kentucky that's going to be on the SEC network. Tune in, help the guys out, bring that broadcast revenue up for the team. The more money they get, the better they're going to be in the future.
Yep.
So that's going to do it for us tonight. I do want to thank you guys for voting for us on Connect Savannah. We won't know the results for, I believe, another month or so.
Which is
Um,
crazy.
right. You do this on the internet.
Right.
Like, you have a running tally of the numbers while people are voting. If we can get paper ballots counted for a national election in a day, how does it take Connect Savannah a month?
They, I don't know. Like, do they have like an abacus they keep track of and just kind of do that one by one? Just look at the votes and do it. I don't know. That is mind-boggling to me. Like they said that it won't get released to the public until like their May edition of whatever of their actual magazine, which again is wild because we've been voting for 3 months or just about 3 months.
Yeah. So we'll
Yeah,
update you guys whenever we find out, because we won't know. Um, but thank you guys for doing that. Continue to rate and review the show, 5 stars, Spotify, Apple, whatever you do. Follow us on social media. Instagram's nothing.finder.pod. Twitter is @finderpod. TikTok is nothingfinderpod. Um, Facebook and YouTube, just search us, find us there, subscribe to the show. Um, but as always, guys, remember there's nothing finer in the land.
been a drunken obnoxious Georgia fan.